Hi, everybody. This is Saad for the Saad Truth. One of the questions that I received from one of the viewers asks basically how I developed my interest in evolution psychology and how did I then get the idea to apply it to consumer behavior. It's a great question and one that I recount in a bit of details in the preface of my 2007 book, The Evolutionary Basis of Consumption. So in fall 1990, I started my PhD at Cornell University. And at the time, my idea was to be a mathematical modeler, basically apply mathematics to study consumer behavior. Having come from a math and computer science background and having had quite a bit of quantitative training, that was the idea. I'd always had an interest in the behavioral sciences, but it certainly wasn't clear that that's where I'd be heading. And my first semester as a doctoral student, my eventual doctoral supervisor, a very accomplished mathematical and cognitive psychologist by the name of J. Edward Russo, suggested that I take an advanced social psychology course with a social psychologist by the name of Dennis Regan, which I was happy to do because certainly, as I said, the behavioral sciences were an area that interested me, and so I was more than happy to switch focus and see if I could train as a behavioral scientist. About halfway through the semester, the professor in question, Dennis Regan, assigned a book by two of the pioneers of evolution psychology. The book is titled Homicide. I highly recommend it. And the two evolution psychologists are a husband and wife team, Margot Wilson, who has regrettably passed away, and her husband, Martin Daly. They were actually Canadian evolutionary psychologists housed at McMaster University. And so he assigned this book for us to read. And what the book basically does is it offers an analysis of criminality from an evolutionary perspective. And so, contrary to what social scientists might do, which is basically to come up with all sorts of environmental and social factors that affect criminality, what Daly and Wilson did is look at some of these universal patterns that happen irrespective of time or place. And so, for example, they demonstrated quite convincingly that the most threatening person in a woman's life is her romantic partner, and usually that partner will commit some act of violence, if not kill his female partner, either because of suspected or realized infidelity. And this will hold true whether you're studying, murder patterns in the Anomomo tribe, or whether you're doing it in Detroit or in Montreal. And so and of course, the argument is that to the extent that paternity uncertainty is a threat that looms large in men's psyches, then they are driven to murderous rages when they think or know that their woman has sexually betrayed them. Of course, this doesn't justify the act, it doesn't condone it, it just explains it. And they went ahead and did all sorts of other wonderful analyses and explanations using an evolutionary lens. For example, when it comes to child abuse, the number one threat or the number one predictor of whether there's going to be child abuse in a home is if there is a step parent. That's something like in the order of 100 times greater likelihood of there being abuse if you have a step parent. And again, from an evolutionary perspective, based on certain kin arguments, it becomes easy to explain why that might be the case. A third example would be, why do young males who are otherwise low status males engage in unbelievably violent interactions that might lead to murder, if only because of some sort of status slight? And again, there's a very elegant evolutionary explanation that might explain why that happens, right? My whole capital as a young, low status male is very much founded on my street cred, on my reputation in the street. And if I lose that, I lose everything. And so I'm willing to go to all lengths to protect that. So using these very simple and elegant evolutionary arguments, Daly and Wilson were able to offer incredibly parsimonious and coherent explanations for these very, in many cases, very morbid phenomena. And that's when I was bitten by the bug, by the evolutionary bug. And so right there, I thought, well, I'm going to take this framework and apply it eventually to consumer behavior. And that's what eventually led me to found the field of evolutionary consumption. So the person who asked that question, thank you very much. I appreciate the fact that I was able to recount the story. Keep the questions coming. Remember the sad truth right here. Have a good weekend, everyone. Ciao.